In the bitter chill of the Cold War, power was measured not only in ideology, but in fire. By the dawn of the 1960s, two superpowers stood poised on the edge of annihilation: the United States and the Soviet Union. Each sought to outshine the other, not just through technology or influence, but through sheer destructive might. Inside the Kremlin, a decision was made that would shake the world. Nikita Khrushchev, premier of the Soviet Union, demanded a weapon so powerful that it would silence all competition. A bomb whose shockwave would echo across continents. The scientists who received that order understood what it meant. They were not merely building a bomb. They were building a symbol, a weapon of terror, pride, and science pushed to its final boundary. Its name would become legend: Tsar Bomba, the king of bombs. Weighing nearly 27 tons and stretching 8 meters long, the bomb was a technological monster. Engineers redesigned aircraft just to carry it. This was no ordinary nuclear weapon. It was a message to the planet that human ingenuity could now summon energy rivaling the sun. In secret laboratories, teams of physicists worked day and night. The pressure was suffocating. Khrushchev wanted the test before the anniversary of the Bolshevik Revolution, a demonstration timed for maximum political theater. Every calculation, every gram of uranium, every stage of fusion had to be perfect. They knew that a single error could end in disaster, not only for them, but for the entire Arctic region. They were designing the largest thermonuclear device ever conceived, capable at full potential of producing a blast 3,000 times greater than the bomb dropped on Hiroshima. This was not just science, it was ambition armed with hydrogen. And in the far north, a place was chosen to witness the unimaginable: the frozen islands of Novaya Zemlya. There, beneath the endless Arctic sky, humanity would soon cross a threshold it could never uncross. October 30th, 1961. The morning air over the Arctic was still, the sky pale with cold. On a runway deep inside Soviet territory, a specially modified bomber, a Tu-95, waited in silence. Its bomb bay held a weapon so massive that its steel casing barely fit inside. The crew climbed aboard with quiet resolve. They knew the risks. Even with the bomb released from high altitude, their chance of surviving the blast was uncertain. To give them time to escape, engineers had attached a massive parachute to the bomb, a desperate attempt to slow its fall. At 11:32 a.m., the aircraft reached the test zone over Novaya Zemlya. The co-pilot released the payload, the parachute deployed, and the bomb drifted downward toward the barren tundra below. Then, in the vast Arctic stillness, the world ignited. A white flash cut through the clouds, brighter than the sun, visible hundreds of kilometers away. The fireball expanded with impossible speed, consuming the air around it, reaching nearly 10 kilometers across. The pilots, blinded for seconds, felt the aircraft lurch as the shockwave caught up to them. The pressure threw the bomber off course, but somehow they survived. Below them, the earth burned. The blast's light bounced off the snow-covered peaks, turning night into day. For a brief moment, the Arctic glowed like the heart of a dying star.
The detonation of Tsar Bomba unleashed a power beyond comprehension. Its yield, 50 megatons of TNT, released energy equal to all the explosives used in both world wars combined. The shockwave ripped outward at supersonic speed. Mountains trembled, Islands vanished in seconds. Windows shattered over 900 kilometers away. Villages hundreds of miles from the test site saw roofs torn off and doors blown inward. In the test range itself, nothing survived. The ground was scorched into glass. The ocean boiled. Air itself turned into a weapon. The mushroom cloud rose more than 60 kilometers into the sky, piercing the stratosphere. At its base, it spread 40 kilometers wide, a fiery stem supporting a crown of smoke and plasma. The light was seen as far away as northern Finland. For observers on the ground, the horizon seemed to melt. The shockwaves circled the Earth not once, but 3 times. Instruments thousands of miles away registered its passage like the heartbeat of a wounded planet. And then, after the roar faded, there was only silence, a silence heavy enough to feel like guilt. When Soviet observation planes returned to the test site days later, they found devastation unlike anything ever recorded. Entire stretches of land had been leveled. Rocks the size of houses had been lifted and thrown. Snow had turned to ash. Within the blast radius, nothing remained alive. Farther out, the tundra was burned black, trees reduced to skeletal fragments. The radiation was intense, though not as catastrophic as some feared. The bomb's design had deliberately limited fallout by using a lead tamper instead of uranium. Even so, the region would bear scars for centuries. Radiation drifted over ice and sea, settling into Arctic currents, joining winds that carried invisible traces across the hemisphere. Animals in nearby islands vanished. Birds fell from the sky. Fish floated lifeless on the waves. For kilometers around, the Arctic silence deepened, a silence not of peace, but of absence. The Tsar Bomba had done what it was designed to do. It proved that humankind could summon destruction greater than any volcano, greater than any storm. And yet, in doing so, it had shown a terrifying truth. We had built something that no sane leader could ever use. Inside Soviet laboratories, the scientists who designed the bomb were both celebrated and haunted. They had achieved what physics said was possible, and proven what morality said was unthinkable. The weapon was never meant for war. It was propaganda, a demonstration of dominance, a symbol for international spectators. But for those who built it, there was no pride in its perfection. They spoke quietly of what they had seen: the endless flash, the melting horizon, the wave that shattered glass in distant villages. Some wondered if they had glimpsed the end of civilization itself. In the following months, data from the test poured in. Seismic instruments recorded readings that astonished researchers worldwide. The energy had been so immense, it altered air pressure across continents. And deep down, every scientist involved knew that they had touched a power that should never again be touched. In Moscow, the detonation was hailed as a triumph. The newspapers called it the crown of Soviet science. Khrushchev smiled before cameras, boasting that the Soviet Union could blow up the world if provoked. But even he knew the truth. The bomb was too large to be practical. It couldn't be carried easily. It couldn't be deployed strategically. It existed only to terrify. Across the world, the reaction was immediate. Governments condemned the test. Scientists warned of its environmental consequences. The United States and Europe watched in alarm as footage leaked of the explosion's blinding fury. For a few tense weeks, the world held its breath. If the Soviets could build a 50-megaton bomb, what came next? 100? 200? The limits seemed bound only by imagination and recklessness. Behind the scenes, even military officials agreed that such weapons had no tactical value. They were instruments of extinction.
The shock wave from Tsar Bomba reverberated not only through the air, but through human conscience. For the first time, people around the globe began to truly understand what nuclear war could mean, not just for nations, but for the planet itself. The bomb's fallout reached the upper atmosphere, where currents dispersed it across distant regions. Trace particles settled in the Arctic snow, in northern Europe, even in North America. Though the contamination was mild compared to ground-level detonations, it served as a reminder that no test was ever truly isolated. The Earth itself had been used as a laboratory, one without consent. And yet, amid the fear, something remarkable began to shift. Outcry over the test helped ignite new calls for restraint.
Scientists, writers, and citizens across the world demanded change. Within 2 years, the Partial Test Ban Treaty would forbid atmospheric nuclear tests, marking a rare moment of sanity in an age of madness. Tsar Bomba, the weapon built to terrify, had instead inspired resistance. As decades passed, Tsar Bomba transformed from a secret to a story. Its images, the blinding flash, the towering cloud, became symbols of Cold War horror. Documentaries replayed the footage again and again, each time reminding the world of what nearly was. For some, the bomb represented national pride, proof of Soviet might. For others, it was an omen, a warning of what humanity could do if ambition outran wisdom. The name itself became shorthand for excess. Whenever humans built something too large, too dangerous, or too pointless, they called it a Tsar Bomba. And yet, beneath the myth, the reality remained simple. The bomb had no strategic purpose. It existed only to prove that we could end everything, and that we almost did. Today, the world still lives under the shadow of what Tsar Bomba revealed. Modern nuclear weapons are smaller, smarter, deadlier. They don't need 50 megatons to erase a city. Precision has replaced scale, but the principle remains the same. We stand in an age of knowledge capable of creating paradise or ending it. The difference lies only in choice. Every discussion of deterrence, every arms treaty, every debate about safety traces back to that day in 1961, when humanity saw what its machines could truly do. The bomb's shockwave has long faded, but its echo lingers in treaties, in fears, in the quiet anxiety of knowing that power once unleashed can never be forgotten. The Tsar Bomba remains the largest nuclear device ever detonated. It stands as a symbol not of power, but of peril. When scientists and soldiers watched that Arctic sky burn, they witnessed more than an explosion. They saw the mirror of humanity's potential to create, to destroy, to overreach. The bomb proved a truth that transcends politics. There are forces we can summon, but not control. It is easy to build power. It is harder to wield it wisely. The same ingenuity that fuels discovery can also ignite the end. And so, Tsar Bomba endures, not as a relic of triumph, but as a warning, a reminder that our greatest weapon is not the atom, but our capacity to choose restraint. Because the greatest explosion in history did not just tear through the Arctic sky, it tore through the illusion that humanity could survive its own brilliance.